Okay. All right. Well, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe-Truckee's virtual online live streaming service. It's Sunday morning, January 24th, and it's my joy to welcome you here. I am Rev Pam, Brandman, the senior minister here at the center. We like to remind everyone that our center's purpose is love. Our vision is embracing all while awakening to the one. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. We know that there are many paths to God, but they all end in oneness and in love. And so we're grateful that each of you is here with us today. We'd like to begin with our receptivity statement that you'll see on your screen, so please read it along with me while we're all muted. I am here by divine appointment. Something about to hear applies to my life. I am open, receptive, and willing to explore the possibilities. So our musician today is Callie J. Hansen. It's been 10 months now since we've been staying at home as much as possible during the pandemic. And so many of us are getting cabin fever, longing to get our lives back to normal. But Callie has chosen a different path. She's stepped up her creativity, and she has become quite a master at creating music videos. And so recently she upgraded her music studio and her AV equipment, so the music she's provided for this morning is some of her very best. So get ready. We're all in for a big treat this morning, and help me welcome Callie J.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see all your faces. My first song selection this morning is just a classic. All my songs are actually classics today. It's Time in a Bottle, and I'm sure a lot of us have been kind of experiencing, this time thing, time feeling like it's standing still in some ways and not in other ways. But Time in a Bottle just came straight to mind. So I hope you enjoy it.
I've looked around enough to know you're is your toothbrush thing?
I've looked around enough to know that you're the one I want to go through time
Thank you so much, Callie J. That was lovely. And this morning we also, our practitioner, we also have a treat here. Shirley Clark had a wonderful reading from Hemant Chodron for our meditation this morning. And it's always good to have Shirley. She's our practitioner that lives in Minden, Nevada with her partner Karen and Shirley's mother. This coming fall, Shirley will celebrate her 10th year as a practitioner. So an important and meaningful part of her spiritual practice is when we're not sheltering at home from COVID, is participating in a monthly sweat lodge. So there's a lot of different ways to come into contact with God, and that's one of the ones that really works well for Shirley. You can ask her about it. But this morning, she's our practitioner of the day. So welcome, Shirley.
A little technical difficulty there. And so as we take time to settle in, knowing that our time together is precious, we just breathe in that which is. And that which is the love of God, constantly creating as us, through us. That love that moves the world, moves the entire universe, constantly changing, molding the beauty that surrounds us. That love that moves between us. I just know that our time together today is blessed and beautiful and full of possibility. And knowing that each person here brings love and creativity as themselves. And I just know that the seeds that we plant today will take root and grow as time passes forward. And knowing that these things are good and wonderful and beautiful, I just bless our time together. And knowing that this is so, together we say, and so it is. This month's theme is Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And the topic for today is looking ahead. And my reading today comes from Science of Mind, page 559. I allow myself to dip deeply into my divine nature. And this is a meditation that's in the back of the book. This meditation is built from the idea that each one of us has within himself a deeper nature. And of course, this deeper nature being an eternal unity with God, or with the living spirit is more than man. It is where the being of man or the nature of man merges into the being of God. So as we dip deeply into our divine natures, let us realize that entering the secret presence of this tabernacle of God, we will, like the pilgrims of old, have to shed that which does not belong to the kingdom of good. We have to deliberately drop that which would hurt. We cannot enter this gate of good with a sword in our hands. So we let go of everything and turn to that divine depth within our own nature, wherein the Spirit of God, the Spirit of love, and the Spirit of peace dwells with calm serenity. We draw into that place within us which has never been hurt, nor has ever been sick, and has always and forever lived in divine and eternal peace, the kingdom of God, which is good. And so I'd like to invite Kelly J back with her special music, Fire and Rain.
So fire and rain, it came to mind pretty quickly to me too when I was thinking about looking ahead, because we always think we're going to be able to see someone again, and when we're looking ahead, you never imagine them not being there. And it was also about healing our collective trauma was part of the things of that Pam told me that we were going to be talking about, and kind of that kind of thing. So I chose Fire and Rain for this. Hope you enjoy.
Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I walked out this morning and I wrote down the song. I just can't remember who to send it to. Well, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Well, I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. Well, I've seen lonely times that I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see I'd see you again. Ooh, yeah, I always thought I'd see you one more time again.
You know, I love that song, James Taylor. I saw him perform one time at the Harrah's at South Lake Tahoe. It's one of those songs that's always haunted me. Just yesterday morning they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. It was about a woman he knew who committed suicide after she was put in an isolation cell. And his friends waited several months to tell him, which made it all the more distressing to hear the news. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend, but I always thought that I'd see you again. You know, so many families have lost a loved one this year, including some in our congregation this year to the coronavirus that they will never see again. And over 421,000 deaths as of yesterday. So we grieve with our fellow Americans for these lives lost and for the families that they've left behind. But change is underway. Thank God. Now, what a difference a week makes. Now, our government has gone from unpredictable and seemingly endless uncivil battle between two sides, as our new president, Joe Biden, described in his inaugural address on Wednesday. Our country had endured an ongoing conflict which led to an unsuccessful insurrection on January 6th. It was all based on false statements that would only serve to keep one person in power rather than honor the will of the people or the people's needs. The conflict kept escalating because doing so kept everyone distracted by battling each other rather than paying attention to what was really going on in our society. So now we have a leader, President Joe Biden, that believes that we must live in unity. Perhaps he was listening to Marianne Williamson's speeches when she was running for president. She always talked about love and unity, but I think it's something that Joe Biden has always been a part of him. He said, "We must end this uncivil war," in his inauguration speech. President Biden was calling us to change how we are living, to live from our spiritual values, from unity, rather than from our fears. He goes on to say, "Uniting to fight the foes we face, anger, resentment, hatred, extremism, lawlessness, violence, disease, joblessness, and hopelessness. With unity, we can do great things, important things. We can right wrongs." So to those that think unity is not really possible, President Biden says, "I know speaking of unity can sound to some like foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep, and they are real, but I also know they are not new. History, faith, and reason show us the way of unity. We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos." To President Biden, forward progress requires learning to live in unity, to learn to disagree without leading to disunion. So this is the calling where the members of the Centers for Spiritual Living find ourselves today. So our topic for January is Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And our talk for today is about looking forward. Now, Ernest Holmes, in the Science of Mind textbook, says that the spiral of life is upward. Evolution carries us forward. You know, there has been an evolution in the practice of the science of mind. The timeless wisdom, the timeless spiritual principles have not changed. They never will. What has evolved is how widely we have applied the principles. We are building on that timeless wisdom toward our evolutionary vision, and it is a spiral upward. Now, in the beginning with Science of Mind, it was about how we could use the power of our mind and thoughts to change our life. And this is what we talked about in the Declaration of Principles, the spiritual principles, on January 10th. In the Science of Mind textbook, it says, change the consciousness and the false condition will disappear. This is the basic part of metaphysics and new thought. Change your thinking, change your life. It's very powerful for healing and transforming our physical bodies, our relationships, and our finances, everything in our life. We realize that God is our source and that our words, our thoughts have power. But one challenge we ran into is sometimes people get their egos stuck in manifesting personal riches and fancy cars. Now, it was all too common in the 1980s when our whole society was rather self-centered. And then we moved on, though, to that global heart, the oneness in all people, going beyond ourselves. But Spirit kept continuing to evolve us as it expresses itself through us, right? We are each an expression of the one, individualized expressions. The first version of the CSL Global Heart Vision was adopted by the United Centers for Spiritual Living Transition Team in 2001. And we talked about, here at our center, we reviewed it on January 3rd, and I shared it with you. And as the UCSLs and the ICSLs, the two different branches of Science of Mind that had split back in the 50s, as they moved towards a merger in 2012, the language of the Global Heart Vision also evolved into its current form. We were focusing on oneness and evolving from being too self-centered. And as we have shifted from individual empowerment to the collective healing of the one, this was reflected in that decision to merge back together as one organization. We can be more powerful together. The things that divided us were small compared to the many things, especially oneness, that unite us. Now, our spiritual development doesn't follow a straight line. Instead, it follows a spiral upward, as Ernest Holmes suggested. This diagram here is from Spiral Dynamics that was developed by Claire W. Graves in 1974. And there's been many other people that have worked in expanding this idea, but the basic thought is that our development expands upward towards spirit. And so you can see that it begins at the basic survival level, then it goes through the security level of animistic kinds of things, and then as this higher notion of God comes in, it moves upward. It's a circle that happens as you practice at a certain level, and then as our understanding grows, as our experience of God, as our understanding of what life is all about increases, we have an aha moment. And then we go to the next level. And then we practice using that principle and applying it. And as we get better and better, then we have another aha moment. And we go up to the next level. And so it's a spiral upward. Different things can happen in our lives that shift us down to another level. It also happens if you look at the development of people as they go through their life. And also societies will go from one to the next. Like the impulse of the next level is the ones where the tribes are there and they're competing. It's very competitive and power, and the Game of Thrones is all about that level. Then the next level is authoritarian rule. You slow down that fighting of all the tribes, but it's an authority. Saddam Hussein thrived on authority, and some of the people that President Trump admired were authoritarians. But then you start to come into this more individualized expression of success. And there is this individual achievement and understanding that there's this expression, individualized expression of the one. But then it circles back and it comes into that wholeness of being together. When we take care of our community or we take care of the environment, it's this green idea of being oneness, and it starts coming back. And then the next level moves up into synergy, where you start seeing how all the parts fit together. And so it's not just about our part, but how we embrace and support each other. And then it goes up to that global vision, where the holistic scene, where we see the whole thing from top to bottom, wherever people are, whatever is going on, that it is all a part of the one. It's all a part of that progressive evolution of spirit manifesting. And it doesn't just end at the top. It will continue going on and on and on until it's in that ultimate oneness. So for the CSLs then, the next level of development is to learn how to manifest that global vision as a society. You know, we have this higher understanding of who spirit is. So how do we make that manifest in our world? Not just as an individual, but collectively. Now, in the science of mind symbol that we have here, in case any of you are not familiar with it, it's divided into 3 levels. At the top is spirit or conscious mind. This is where we make our choices and decisions, as Shirley was talking about in our reading this morning, in the meditation. Our spirit is where we can listen to spirit and make those choices connected with spirit from that oneness, or we can make them as individuals, but that's where they're made. And then those are sent down into the law, which is the subjective mind, which it's like, you put it in the black box and it comes out the other end as an effect of the body, what is manifest. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about this science of mind, we don't always talk about, on the left side of the V, it's going down from the spirit intention into the body, but then it comes back from the body out on the right side in that little swoop, as they call it. And the swoop gives us feedback about what's going on in our conscious awareness. So if we want to know what we're thinking about, we can just look at what we're manifesting. Now, it's not entirely, while we're very responsible for what happens in our lives, and we can change our thinking and change our life, there's also this thing called race consciousness that's going on, right? The race consciousness is the accumulated beliefs and experiences of humankind from time immemorial. All of those centuries and eons of time as we developed. And so this race consciousness, it has things that are true, it has some of that spiritual truth, but it also has things that are totally false. But everybody believes it, so it must be true, right? You've told it to me 1,000,000 times, so it must be true, right? We've had some experience with that in the last year, few years. So that also is controlling. Now, this body awareness then is one of our spiritual tools that we have to discover, this is not really true. This is not what I want. I want to experience the qualities of God in my life. And so what we call this somatic wisdom, when we learn from our body awareness. And it can take many forms. Now, at the very, very basic level, when you touch the stove and you get burned, you learn really quickly not to touch the stove again. My little teddy bear I had when I was about 3 had a burn on his face his whole life because he fell on the stove one time, right? But it also operates at more subtle levels. Sometimes we'll have an intuitive feeling that just something is just not right for us, or it's just wrong to proceed. It's like, I can remember one time when I just had this, I had to take a different route to drive to work in the morning. I don't know why, but I did. Well, afterwards I found out why. It's because there was an accident on my normal route, and I totally missed it. And some of the other people that came into the office late had to wait to go around it. Now, another part of this somatic wisdom is in meditation. We can have a visceral experience of the presence of God. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but when you get into that sense of oneness and that God is real and that God is responding to us, that we are a part of God, it's a feeling that just transforms my whole being. You know, it's very real. It's an ecstatic feeling in the body. And so when we take that time to meditate and know that I am, we experience that power and presence of God in our lives. It transforms us because life is not the same when you know that that Spirit is always there with you all the time. And then we come back again then to see what we are manifesting in our life, in our world. Is it what we want? Does it follow those qualities of God, of peace, love, joy, beauty, compassion? Or is it something we don't want? Is it about anger and fear and feeling small? In Science of Mind, in the textbook, we do not say that everything is all right when it's all wrong. And Ernest Holmes also said, there is no place in this practice for arrogance or the holier-than-thou attitude. The great have always been humble. The great have always been kind. The great have always been lovers of humanity. Right? We have to be willing to see how we are contributing to what we don't like in our lives and to recognize also the race consciousness that is in action. Now, the race consciousness contains both the truth and false beliefs that have been collected over the centuries. And so, what is manifesting is those beliefs, whether they're true or not. And so now with that somatic connection, we are called to see and feel the effects of race consciousness and false beliefs as they are embodied in our manifest world, in our bodies, in our relationships. This is somatic wisdom. So we can actually feel this in our body. You know, when you feel love, you'll feel it somewhere in your body. You know, for some people it's in the mind or in the third eye, or it could be in your voice, it could be in your heart or your solar plexus, it could be that sexual drive. I mean, you're going to feel it somewhere. And so if we learn to do that, and also when you're in a conversation, a difficult conversation with someone or someone you love, and you're trying to figure out, how do I work my way out of this conversation that seems to be the same conversation over and over and over and over again? Well, that feeling may tell you there's something that you're not being brave enough to acknowledge to yourself and to your partner. Right? So it's a clue that can help us become in tune with what really is happening. You know? Now, there's a man named Richard Strauss Heckler. He developed the art of somatic coaching. And this is a quote from him. Being out of touch with our body limits our capacity to learn and evolve, and it dramatically reduces the possibility of an authentic spiritual experience. Right? So this is paying attention to those feelings in our body is also how we know God. What is God? And get in connection with God. Spiral dynamics shows how our consciousness evolves as we move to the higher levels. And our body goes along with it, our expression. If our goal in the CSLs and individually is to replace the authoritarian and the power-based rules with more egalitarian systems that understand how we are dependent on each other. In other words, based on oneness and unity. We want to purge our race consciousness of those erroneous beliefs and manifest spiritual truth, leaving only the truth. We are called to believe in, embody, and live the spiritual truth, and release all false beliefs and fears as they manifest in our own bodies and in our society. This is our call to be willing to live our lives based on a belief in unity rather than separation. A great calling that can and will transform our world. Ernest Holmes says that unless we become the living embodiment of love and light, we shall have no justification in saying that God is love and light. right? So we can prove our beliefs by demonstrating them in our lives. Right? Now, when we work to change our lives and change our society, there's a phenomenon that we need to be careful to recognize and avoid. It's called spiritual bypass. It was first introduced by John Welwood, a Buddhist teacher and psychotherapist, and it means a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. A symptom of a spiritual bypass is looking at the world around us without acknowledging what is really happening. I remember the story of a religious science practitioner being in hell and sitting and meditating, and they were saying, I'm not really here. I'm not really here. I'm not really here. Well, the reality was they were there, right? So we have to face that reality, and we have to look at what's causing that, right? When we are going through an unpleasant or even devastating experience, it is human nature to look ahead to better times and want to quickly move on with as little pain as possible. So we'll just leapfrog over that. We'll just say it's not really here. We'll just say, love and kindness is the truth and experience it. Well, you got to go from here to there, because, it's when we pray affirmatively and give a spiritual mind treatment, we first deny the false appearance and then state what we would like to experience instead. Instead of poverty, we want to experience prosperity. Instead of sadness or anger, we want to experience joy. Instead of a difficult relationship, we want to experience being part of a happy, harmonious, and loving relationship. It sounds really simple at this surface level, right? Just change my words and it'll change. But like the iceberg that shows only 10% of its volume above the ocean's surface, the conditions in our mind and belief system below our conscious awareness are complex and controlling. This is our own subconscious beliefs and thoughts, as well as that race consciousness, that both the true and false beliefs accepted by humankind through the centuries. This, like, if you want to be rich, but I don't deserve it, that is the controlling thing. This race consciousness and our beliefs are what determine what will manifest in our world. So trying to change our world by just denying what's going on and simply saying, basically, it's not true, is called a spiritual bypass. So we're talking about spiritual principles, but not changing what we do, right? It's not that the spiritual principles don't work. It's that we have not embodied the spiritual principles into our lives with our choices. So that's why it's a spiritual bypass and why it doesn't work. We must have an inner shift before we can see an outer shift in our lives and in society. Until we shift our subconscious beliefs and expectations, we will continue to experience the same conditions. And this is one reason it's important that we recognize that we're all in this together, right? We can lift each other up. Now, as an example, when someone gets divorced or leaves a difficult relationship, that person will continue to attract the same spouse or partner with a new face until they heal their own wounds and beliefs that attracted that original partner or spouse in the first place. It's not about blaming them, whoever them is or they are. It's all about healing our own part of the relationship. When we are whole, we will attract a whole partner. If we attempt a spiritual bypass without healing our unresolved emotional issues and psychological wounds, or without facing and addressing our own habits that hinder us from functioning as a mature, responsible, and loving adult, we will find ourselves in an endless circle, encountering the same unwanted experiences and relationships over and over. It takes courage, vulnerability, and grace to look within and heal our hearts and minds. But when we do, we will be truly ready to look ahead to a new future of promise and wholeness. Jeff Brown, who wrote a book called Grounded Spirituality, has said, if you want to live a more spiritual life, live a more human life. Be more truly, madly, deeply human. And this is embodying be willing to embody and live life in its fullest and see those spiritual qualities manifest in our lives and in the world. Now, another phenomena that's affecting our lives is the individual and collective trauma that is passed down from one generation to the next. Reesma Manakam, a black licensed clinical social worker, was inspired to write his book based on watching his grandmother's hands, which had picked cotton in the South. To him, it represented how she was locked in a world that was controlled by white privilege. A quote from his book, My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies, is, we don't need to understand white supremacy, because white supremacy isn't rational. We won't end it with intellect alone. It is eternalized deep within our bodies. Right? It doesn't matter whether we're white or black. It's internalized and passed down through our DNA. And so that trauma passes from one generation to the next, according to Monacum. He says, through families in which one family member abuses or mistreats another. It could be through unsafe or abusive systems, structures, institutions, and/or cultural norms. And it's through our genes. Now, this is an amazing discovery. This was news to me. Their recent work in human genetics suggests that trauma is also passed on in our DNA expression through the biochemistry of that human egg, sperm, and the womb. This means that no matter what we look like, if we were born and raised in America, white body supremacy and our adaptations to it are in our blood. Our very bodies house the unhealed dissonance and trauma of our ancestors. So healing this deeply entrenched systemic racism and manifesting a society that is based on spiritual principles of oneness, wholeness, love, and justice will take a lot of work to transform that massive iceberg of race consciousness. We all need to work together. Nevertheless, this is our calling if we are to embody the CSL Global Heart Vision, our spiritual principles, and manifest them as our reality. Now, one more example. If our congressional representatives try to work together in unity without addressing the underlying conditions that are manifesting in our society, it will be a spiritual bypass that is likely to perpetuate past divisions. They just go through the process. This is the way we do it. We played this game, and it's just the same thing over and over and over. But really, what's underneath? Everyone must be ready and willing to change, to face those real issues, like the pandemic, climate change, widening income disparities in our population between the 1%ers and the people that have trouble paying their rent or putting food on the table, between systemic racism. We all need to change underlying beliefs and believe that it's possible. Rather than seeing people who disagree with us as enemies, we must see them as fellow human beings. We are on this path together. We need to be willing to see the world by stepping into each other's shoes so we can heal our own blind spots. We can make a choice to throw out any beliefs and fears that hinder us from living in unity. Our somatic wisdom will help us identify those. And we can make a fresh start to live from oneness, to embody the divine qualities of God, love, peace, and joy, and trust in every decision we make and in every action we take. Amanda Gorman, who's 22, is our nation's poet laureate. And on last Wednesday, January 20th, 2021, she recited her original inaugural poem in honor of our new President, Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris. She eloquently captured our mission to repair our nation, as well as the hope, courage, and determination that this goal will require. In her words, I hear the voice of Spirit calling to us. She says, lay down our voice so we can reach out our arms to one another. That we will ever be tied together victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. I think she's got it. So listen carefully to Amanda Gorman's words and the call of our nation's next generation to live in unity. Rick?
President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
So what do you think? You know, I could have written my entire sermon on that poem. It's all there. You know, as we look forward, we have to be it. We have to be the change we want to be. We have to be the embodiment of the divine principles of peace and love and unity. So let's take this to prayer. And so as our hearts have been lifted up, as we know that it's like spring is breaking out all over, it is spirit, the truth, that is coming to the surface everywhere where it has been hidden, but it is now fully present. We can see that it is fully alive, and it is that one life that is God, that is the truth of who we are. And so we allow ourselves to know that that hope that we have held carefully is now rewarded with the experience of the truth. And we allow ourselves to fully embody the spiritual truth of who we are, to put on the clothes of spirit, to have it come from the inside out, through every pore, through every thought, through every word, through every action, every choice in our lives. And we see that manifesting everywhere as we act together to lift up our world, our planet, our country, our families, our individual lives, the nations, our world together, our environment, our children, and our children's children. We allow that spirit to manifest, and we act with joy and with full commitment to support the one. I am so grateful that we see this and feel it in our bodies, feel it in our hearts, understand it in our minds, and allow it to be. We let go and let God be the truth in our lives in all ways. And as I release these words, I know that it is already done. In the words of Amanda Gorman, she sees it. We are on our way. We're all going to row together and create a world that works for everyone, heaven on earth. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And together we say, and so it is. So we have one more wonderful treat for you this morning, and that is a song by Callie J. Times They Are Changing. Callie J?
Hi. Well, this isn't by Callie J, but this is by Bob Dylan. And I kind of looked up on Wikipedia to see a little bit about what they had to say about this. This song, The Times They Are Changing, was written in 1964. And it says this album consists mostly of stark, sparsely arranged ballads concerning issues such as racism, poverty, and social change. The title track is one of Dylan's most famous, and many people feel like it captures the spirit of social and political upheaval that was characterized in the 1960s. And to me, that's evolutionary wisdom in a nutshell. And that was one reason why I was just guided or whatever to this song. I've liked this song a long time. I put my own spin on it, and I have the choir O'Calley, so you'll hear me in 3 parts this time. And I put together this video because with a different spin of little clips of things that I feel like represent the song. So I hope you enjoy it.
Come gather around people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept that it's soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone. For the times they are a-changin'. Come writers and critics who prophesy with your pen, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changin'. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you don't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend a hand. For the times they are a-changin'. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. There's a battle outside and it's raging. It'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls. For the times they are a-changin'. The line is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading. The first one now will later be past, for the times they are changing. For the times they are a-changin'.
Thank you, Kali J. So you can see there's been quite some creativity coming through there. And we each have our gift, whatever it is, to share with the world. So be a part of that change. And we come to our time now of our prosperity section of our service, when we give our gratitude for all of the good things that are in our lives and for this center that is making such a difference in our lives during this time. We have our slide for our prosperity affirmation. So if you would read this along with me while we're all muted. I gratefully and joyfully share my offering, which flows from God, my infinite source. My gift blesses this center and all who are guided, healed, and empowered by its activities. All I share with life returns to me blessed and multiplied. So we're grateful for all of the gifts that you continue to share with us. It supports our center, and we are we're putting together a budget this year, and so we want to open up, and we want to be here when it's time to reopen. There will be coming. Some of us have gotten vaccinated, so please help our center. We appreciate your gifts, and of your treasure and your time and talent as well. And so we bless these. Let's say our offering. Sing our song together. I am so blessed by Karen Drucker.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
So as we all share our blessings, we are grateful for that flow from Spirit, from the Infinite One, that showers our lives with abundance, for our ability to open up and see that abundance coming into our lives, to receive it, to bless it, to share it, in that law of circulation, is it giving and receiving. All is well. All is good. All is one. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And so it is. All right. So if you're a first-time visitor, we want to welcome you. If you're listening online, you can go to our webpage and sign up to you get our emails, and so you will know about all of the great things happening in our center. This week we inaugurated a president and entered an unfamiliar world where our leaders focus on our country's needs and put together plans and experienced teams to carry out those plans. So we're doing the same here at the Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe-Truckee. We have lots of opportunities planned for you to connect and to share in spiritual practices and discourse. And so to let you know all of the things happening is our Associate Minister, Reverend Rick Carney.
Pam. Just want to remind everyone that we are recording our service here today and that it will be available via all of our social network sites soon after service is over. I invite you to check it out, rehear any part that you want to hear again, and share with your family and friends. Next week, we finish our series on timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. I'll be your speaker as Rev Pam is taking Sunday off. And our guest musicians will be Jared and Shauna Namaste and Carol Dalban, our practitioner of the day. Since we returned to the Wednesday night gathering, I'm deciding to give a little introduction to some of the other traditions, and especially their spiritual practices. So in the Benedictine tradition of Catholicism, the spiritual practice of Visio Divina, or sacred seeing, is our topic for discussion. And we'll get a chance to practice that a little bit, and I invite you to check it out. That's Wednesday at 7 p.m. I want to make a point that we will be having a Valentine's Day drive-through event coming up in the next couple of weeks. I don't have details to share with you just yet, but please check out the Constant Contact and tune in next Sunday when we'll have the details to provide. Lastly, we have registration for the CSL virtual convention still available, Vista 2021. The information and registration is at the website you see listed on the bottom there. I needn't say, we have something going on every day of the week here at CSL Tahoe-Truckee. I invite you to check out the meditations led by our practitioners on Monday and Tuesday morning at 8:30 to 9 a.m. It's a wonderful way to start off your day. I spoke already to the Wednesday gathering. On Thursdays, Chris Worcester is leading us in Tai Chi and meditation in the evening with Penny Scholler and Mary McEnany. Sue Pipel is continuing the Course in Love discussion this coming Friday. You won't be seeing Letting Go by David Hawkins until next month. And Ned Diantios, of course, is leading a group in discussing A Course in Miracles. I invite you to drop in on any one of these activities. With that, I turn the mic back to Rev Pam.
Okay. Make sure I'm not. Okay, great. So the one last announcement before we get into our closing is our wonderful practitioners are here. They are ready to pray for you. And so if you would raise your hands, there's Nancy O'Neill. Carol Dalbon is here. Shirley Clark was our practitioner of the day. Reverend Rick Carney is a practitioner. And I think that's all of us. And I'm a practitioner as well. So if anything that's going on in your life, we are here. You're not alone. And we can help you work through covering some of that, dealing with that iceberg that's underneath the water. That's what we specialize in. So we're going to have our closing affirmation and the peace song, and afterwards, if you would like to stay around for our hospitality time, it's a good time we can talk about your feelings about the past week with the inauguration and that wonderful speech by Amanda Gorman and the presidential inaugural address as well. So I think we're ready for our affirmation. If you would repeat with me, I am the ever-evolving living embodiment of love.
Couple extra taps.